Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we have blues guitarist Leilani Kilgore.
Hey Randy, how's it going?
You should know I'm gonna leave you. You should know I'm gonna leave you. I'll let you call me darling. Run your fingers across my skin. Blast some music for the neighbors while we break my mattress in. You should know I'm gonna leave you. You should know I'm gonna leave you. 'Cause when it comes down to the wire, I'll just cut and run once more. Morning you'll wake up alone, an empty bed and an open door. I just don't have it in me to stick around and take this chance. I love the feeling of a first kiss. I won't let it be my last.
I wanted to start out by digging into some of your history. How did you get involved in music, and what age did you start playing guitar?
Well, I grew up in a very musically oriented household. My parents are not musicians, but they're huge classic rock fans, so music was always playing in our house. And I think around the age of 8 or 9, I saw like we had like a 4 DVD set of Rolling Stones at Madison Square Garden, and I thought Keith Richards was like the coolest person of all time. And my dad was always talking about Jimi Hendrix, and I think as like an only child, I got a little bit of like a jealousy complex. So I asked my dad to get me a guitar, and started playing electric guitar around the age of I think 12. Started with classical before that. So yeah, so it's been about 14 years now. 14 years? Yeah.
Were you like always into the blues when you started out?
No. No. No, I wasn't, and I wish I had been. Honestly, I was like way too angsty and angry. I think I started out with Green Day. I really liked Green Day and Death Cab for Cutie, and those were like my go-to bands, and that was what I wanted to learn how to play. And it wasn't until I think I was 15 that I actually appreciated the blues for what it was worth. But we got there. We got there in the end, and that's the important thing.
Can you tell me some of your musical influences as far as guitar players?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what really got me into there's a point where you transition from being forced to practice to wanting to practice, and what got me into that transitional point was definitely BB King. First and foremost, I had a teacher, Ron Kempton, who he really just helped me learn the basics of the electric guitar fretboard and get me into songwriting and all that stuff. But he said the most important thing you need to do, first and foremost, as a guitar player, is if you're soloing, you need to learn how to have a conversation. He said there should be breathing points, there should be dynamics, it should be kind of like a conversation between a man and a woman, whether it's loving or an argument, it doesn't matter. And he said, the person you need to learn that from is BB King. So he burned me a CD, and it had BB, it had Albert, it had Freddie, it had Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he would just have me listen to these tracks and just learn by ear to play along, try to mimic the nuances, things like that. And that's when I was like, that's what got me hooked. And I was like, I just want to sit and play guitar for like 8 hours a day. So it started with BB and cats like that. I wasn't sophisticated enough to understand how to replicate people like Jeff Becker, Eric Johnson yet, and I still can't. But like just getting to learn how to just play emotion in like a couple of notes at a time for me was really addictive. So it started there, and then transitioned into started getting into Rory Gallagher and like Gary Moore's a huge one for me. Bonamassa, just kind of cats like that. Jack White was a big one as well. So just kind of branching out and finding ways to bridge old school blues and the way that it's been interpreted in new style as well.
I know a lot of people in Nashville, they use like fill-ins as a band. Do you have like a full band that tours around with you?
I do. I'm very lucky to have a pretty set group of guys that I tour with at this point. My drummer that I tour with, we've actually worked together for 10 years. We met when we were 15 out in Southern California, and by coincidence, both ended up here in Nashville. So he's on the road with me, and then I've got guitar player John Wise Carver, who works for String Joy, who's a phenomenal guitar player, definitely my right hand man, and he'll come out on the road with me as well, and Josh Rice on bass. And it is rare in Nashville to get to have a group of people that are your steady, first call guys, but it's fortunately worked out in my favor.
Now, did you reach out to these people and say, "Hey, I want you in my band," or how did you get them all to come together?
I've gone through a couple different iterations of the band. John has always been there from the get go, and I can't exactly remember why that happened, if I'm being honest with you. It probably had something to do with like a last minute necessity for a guitar player and some sort of Facebook plea for help. But I think that's how that ended up. And then everything else just kind of fell into place once Hunter moved into Nashville. And I think that was about a year ago. And he was back around. We kind of, because we're just so used to working together, that was an obvious choice. And I worked with Logan Hatcher for a while, a bass player here in Nashville who's phenomenal, and just for needing vocals, ended up transitioning over to Josh. But it didn't take very long to find the right group of guys, and obviously, the longer you play together, the more you fall into sync and can really just pick up where you left off once you get back on stage.
I wanted to go into a couple of your songs. You have a song called "I'm Gonna Leave You," and it came out October 2021. And there's a line in there, "Buy some music for the neighbors while we break the mattress in." And that don't sound like you're gonna leave the guy.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe more for selfish purposes than anything. Yeah, um, that one was a pretty true to scenario songwriting situation, unfortunately, for both my neighbors and myself, and especially the guy included. But yeah,
That was a story, and you just like, "Okay, I'm gonna write a song about this." That was basically how you came up with that idea?
it was actually a real situation that happened, and very rarely as a songwriter do you get these instances where you can sit down and write a song and it just happens in 15 minutes. That's one of those once in a blue moon, like the gods are smiling upon you for those 15-minute situations. But it happened with this one, and I was really fortunate. But the way it came about was I was in a long-term relationship from 2018 to 2020, and or no, 2017 to 2019, and it ended mid 2019. And it was a very tumultuous relationship. Really, it had a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and I just kind of wanted space to myself to regroup, make sure that I was going to process everything appropriately and not come out of it with trauma that hadn't been addressed. And I didn't really want to get into anything serious. But a woman has her needs, so Tinder happened, and started hanging out with a guy who was great. He was a really nice guy. We weren't taking anything too seriously, and we'd been hanging out for a couple of months. Well, not a couple of months, maybe like 2 months. So nothing official, nothing exclusive really, but just kind of chilling and hanging. And I had to go over to London for business in January of 2020. And as a joke, when I was in the airport about to board my plane, he said, "Just do me a favor, just don't fall in love." And I was like, "Ha, no problem." I go over to London and met a guy and fell head over heels and never spoke to the guy that I was seeing ever again. So I came home and I sat on the couch and I had a guitar and I was like, man, this is a really horrible thing to do to somebody, but I bet there's a song in here somewhere. And 20 minutes later, "I'm Gonna Leave You" was on the demo tape. So that's the origin story of that one. So apologies to Tristan wherever you are.
You have another song called XXX Moonshine you released in July 2021, and you start off the song with the line, "Can't you tell what kind of mood I'm in?" Um, was that, like, hard to write that song because it's kinda edgy a little bit, you know?
It was a little hard to write. I actually, that version that we tracked was a version that I rewrote in 2018 or 2019. We've actually been performing that song in my shows for a few years now. I think I wrote it in 2016 or 2017. And originally it was in a different key. There was no bridge. I don't think we ever went back to the first verse. But it was a little awkward for me because I was just kind of coming into my formative years as a young adult, and I had never written anything like that before. And Yeah, I think my biggest concern was, at the time my parents were coming to every single show and definitely had an older audience. And I was like, this is either going to be, I'm going to be the pariah of this blues society, or it's going to go over really well and no one's going to hear what the lyrics are about. So yeah, it was a little bit awkward for me, but at the same time, like I've kind of embraced that side of myself a little bit, and it's become a common thread with some of the songs that I write. And it's just a matter of fact sort of, hey, I mean, women are women, and we do what we do, and this is something that we enjoy. So I'm not exactly as ashamed of it as I used to be or worried about it. But I definitely do still have instances where, depending on the audience, I'm just like, oh man, maybe this is not like an Easter Sunday show. I probably wouldn't open with that one, or like an AA meeting wouldn't be a good setting. But no, at 25, I'm comfortable with it. It did take a little while.
Yeah, it feels like you're kind of like a rebel, you know.
I guess a little bit. Like maybe only in the sense that I'm pretty fearless as far as being upfront with uh, just my personality, as far as my positives and my negatives. Because everybody has two sides to one coin. But I don't exactly make an effort to comply to fit in a box. I mean, the thing is, like, I've tried to change my onstage persona. I've tried to change my look. I've tried to conform to what I think would suit um, my branding best, and it doesn't work for me that well. I have to be authentic in what I'm doing, because honestly, I think people are smart enough to know that when you're performing and you're playing something that's emotive like blues, if you're not able to connect emotionally to what you're doing and you lack that authenticity, people pick up on that and they lose interest. And the whole point of music is to build that connection with your audience and share an experience. And if you're not really believing in what you're doing, then eventually it's going to catch up to you, and there's gonna be that disconnect. So rebel's one way to put it, for sure. I think I've just accepted being a bit of a social outcast, if anything. In a previous interview, the interviewer and I came up with the term socially bipolar, which I think is probably the most apt way to state it at this point.
Can you tell what kind of mood I'm in? I wanna drink your wine, I wanna sip your gin. Draw your name all across my skin. Save your prayers, cause I don't mind sin. Can you tell what kind of mood I'm in? I wanna drink your wine, I wanna sip your gin. Drink straight moonshine and call me back. Say you wanna have another heart attack. Do it best, yeah, you do it right. You tell that it's gonna be a hell of a night. You do it best, you do it right, yeah. I can tell it's gonna be a damn good night.
I really like your storytelling and your lyrics, the way you paint a picture and everything. Um, is that just natural, or did you like have courses in like lyric writing and stuff like that?
Actually, I have always been obsessed with books. I was like, that was my punishment as a kid. Is if I was in trouble, I got my books taken away from me. Really harsh punishment, I know. But I was obsessed with narrative and storytelling, and I used to write a lot before I could write songs. I would just write stories and poems, and it was just my creative outlet before I could play. And I've always been obsessed with writers like Jack Kerouac, and like Tom Waits is one of my favorite lyricists, and finding ways to um, create this whole story and this whole mental picture using just like text on paper or just words, I think is a fascinating thing. And I, even down to the scientific aspects of it, I've always really been fascinated by it. English was my favorite subject in school. So I think I just luckily inherited that, and the passion I had for those sorts of things translated into my writing. I've never taken a songwriter course because I'm a little scared that it would try to mold me into because songwriting, it can come down to a formula, and there definitely is a bit of a formula behind what I do. I understand the basics of how a song should flow, but as far as the writing itself is concerned, I've tried to really just stay ignorant to all of that and just hope that whatever I'm doing at the moment works out for the best.
I really like your guitar solos. Do you like plan them out, or do you just go in there and with emotion and feeling and just rip out a guitar solo like in the studio when you record?
Yeah, no two takes are the same. And it's honestly, I'm just shooting myself in the foot with that because sometimes I'll take a great solo. I mean, especially with the tracks that we just finished a month ago in the studio, it's in my opinion, and I'm not a very proud person, but I will say that the tracks I did for the upcoming three singles are, in my opinion, some of my best work. And it's kind of a nuisance to myself because I know that I'm never going to be able to play them the same way ever again. Like, it was just one of those things where, like, I either was really upset in the moment or I was feeling it. Usually I get aggravated with myself. It's like by the third take, I'm like, damn it, why can't I hit this riff? Let's just do it again. And eventually that all pens up and comes out into this furious, probably too many notes. But no, I don't like to plan out my solos simply to maintain that emotional connection to it, whether it's anger or joy or whatever it is. As long as I'm feeling it, I think that it's going to be a lot better than something that's very clean cut and, in time and perfected. I don't really believe in that too much because I like having that edge of feeling on the verge of falling apart. Like there's just this little whisper of potential calamity behind whatever's going on. And I wish that I could plan these things out, and if I sit down and really focus, I could teach myself my own solos, but I frankly don't have the patience, so we just hope for the best every time.
So basically, when you're playing out, you just go off.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, to me, my biggest heroes are the people like like Buddy Guy. Uh, again, Gary Moore. Everybody that I've named so far as influences, none of them played a solo the same way. I think there are a couple instances where you'll hit a key phrase that you have to do because it just speaks to that song, that solo. It becomes an iconic phrase, and I definitely do that. I do hit a majority of the same solo, and I'm gonna leave you in XXX Moonshine, partially because I've heard it so many times at this point. And I think that if people are familiar with the song, they want to hit those pivotal moments in the solo melody. But no, because I think it depends on like what kind of night you're having will completely affect your playing. What kind of room you're in, what kind of audience energy you're feeding off of, how your band is doing, what tone you're getting, because it everything can come down to like the most minuscule factor that will affect the show on whole. And I like to be able to interpret that every night and just kind of see what's going on and let that feed into whatever my brain's going to come up with my solos. Because honestly, I don't consider myself the best vocalist. I don't consider myself the best songwriter, but I do have a lot of confidence in my playing. And if I can just hold on to that and make sure that I can put all my energy into letting whatever's coming out during the solo sections ring clear and be true in the moment, that's the most important thing to me. So it's always different every single night. And there are bad nights and there are good nights, but I think that's kind of the joy of it because then you're always pushing yourself to try to be the best every single time.
What do you got planned for 2022?
So much. Oh, it's so exciting. So I've been playing my whole life, which is insane, but I never took the risk of doing original shows. For the longest time, I was working like 3 hour, 4 hour gigs, primarily covers, mostly blues covers, and I would throw in some originals. I wouldn't really talk about them. I had nothing released, and I fell into this really comfortable job on a cruise ship playing in a rock cover band, guaranteed paycheck, which almost never happens as a musician. And it was great, and I was very cozy in my little job. And 2020 hit, and it was like my entire world imploded. And I got stuck with this choice of, okay, I am 23 at the time. I live here in Nashville, which I've always wanted to do. I have these guitars, I have this skill set, I have this music that I've written that I haven't done anything with. When the world stops being, you know, shut down, am I going to resume this life that I've been living, or am I going to actually take the risk of pursuing what I've been wanting to do my whole life anyway? And so March 2022 or May 20, not 2022, I'm sorry, 2021, I think it was March or May, was my very first all original show. Um, and it just was this exhilarating feeling of kill or be killed, leave everything on the stage. Nobody knew the songs, nobody knew who I was. And it was terrifying. I was terrified. I mean, I was shaking the whole 45 minutes. But you walk off stage with this feeling of exhilaration and adrenaline and knowing that you've pushed yourself to the limit because you care about every single second of what you're doing. It was like this feeling that I had never really had before. You don't have the comfort of playing songs people know right off the bat. You don't have the comfort of having an arrangement like that you've listened to 1,000 times because you knew it on the radio. There's something really it feels like you're walking on a tightrope for 45 minutes, and I just got addicted to that. So since May of 2021, it's probably why I ride a motorcycle now, to be honest with you. But since May of 21, we have done quite a few original shows, and since then I have signed to a management label. I have recorded 3 new demos that are very well professionally done. No shade thrown to the guy that I worked with on the first 2 singles, but these are a bit night and day as far as production quality and band quality is concerned. Actually, we had top-notch players on those 2 singles too. I can't even say that, and I feel really rude for saying that. I hope that those 2 people forgive me for misspeaking. But the point being, like, the writing's better and the playing is better, the production's a little better, and so since then, the management label. Yeah, this is my ADD. I apologize, Randy. Management label, new singles, and touring. Yes, so we're actually doing tours now, which is insane. It's like a dream come true for me to get to do this under my own name. So 2022 for the remainder of the year is going to be breaking into some new markets. We are looking at buying a touring van, which sounds like a massive expense that I can't wait to fall into the black hole of. We have got merch that we've been selling out of quite a bit. We're doing CDs. And we are applying to festivals, and next year we're going to be heading into further territories. I think next August we're going to be hitting Mexico. So we're going to be just finding a way to cross that whole bit of, I think Texas takes like 17 days to get through in of itself. So we're going to deal with that, and I think we're going to try to get into Canada, and we're going to go back in studio in the next 3 to 4 months. So it's just like, it's one of those things where you're just trying to keep up with the snowball at this point because it's already gone. So I'm very excited, in case you can't tell by my just general like ball of anxiety that's going on over here. But I'm absolutely thrilled because I didn't think it would pick up as quickly as it has, and it's something I've always wanted to do. And the fact that and you never know if it's going to work out. It could fall apart. I could be under a bridge in 16 months. But at least I got to play to a room full of people that really enjoyed what I did, and yeah, so 2022, this is the longest roundabout answer, Randy. I'm so sorry. 2022 it's just a point of growth for us at the moment. And that's what we're all really excited about.
How can we get a hold of you? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter?
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I do have a TikTok. I despise TikTok, so I don't ever use it, but it's there. Yeah. And then I have an email list that I think I used once in 2021. We're going to be setting up some kind of community text, like an info outreach system, and we're going to be using it to send out links to the single that's dropping on June 2nd. So if you sign up for this community thing, which I will be adding to my social media later today, you will get a link to basically get to listen to the song for free before it's released. So that's very exciting. Technology is wild.
What's the name of the new song?
It's called Diamond Shine. It's going to be the first of the 3 singles that we release.
That's all the questions I have. Thanks for coming on the show today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, just thank you so much for having me, and thanks for being patient with my schedule. And it was actually a lot of fun talking to you. And I hope that whatever subtitles people need to add to keep up with my rate of speech are fairly accurate, but time will tell. So just, yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Lydia's Castle actually mentioned me to you, and I've been checking out your interviews, and it's been great getting to listen to you, interview other artists. So I'm proud to be on the roster.
Speaking of Lydia's Castle, you were in the music video.
I was in their music video. I played a prison warden. I actually have the badge right over there. I played a prison warden, which I was thrilled. I was over the moon to get to be a part of that. They're just the best people, so it was a huge honor.
You'll see someday. Just you wait until I make my money. Just you wait until I get mine. Then we'll see whose jokes are funny. Then we'll see who has the diamond shine.